Welcome back to Uncontested Investing. I'm Tim Harrods. Thank you so much for swinging back by. Today, my guest is Captain America, Dean Rogers. Dean, thanks for being here, buddy.
Thanks for having me, man.
So I didn't even think about nicknaming you that until I had Stratton on the show. And Stratton's like, oh, well, we call him Captain America. And I was like, oh, yeah. And then I realized it's Steve Rogers, not Dean Rogers.
It makes sense pretty good, right?
It does. And you've kind of got that, you were just doing exercises before
had to get a pump before,
Well, Dean, thank you for being here. Real quick, take about a minute and just kind of tell the audience a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so Dean Rogers, my story is I started my career in the NFL, and we'll get more into that later, but transitioned to corporate and then realized that was not going to get me back to the dream life that I saw was possible with the NFL. So thankfully, God put me in front of a keyboard to type in how to get started in real estate. And there I found how to get started with little to no money and started with wholesaling. And so I've been doing that for 10 years now. I do all my investing in Central California. And I've done around 600 deals now and been able to build up a rental portfolio of almost $10 million. And now coaching students how to get started in real estate too.
That's excellent. I love how things come full circle in this industry. So the first segment every week is called the bottom line up front, the bluff. When I was in the Marine Corps, we briefed generals, and they always said, you cover the most important thing. You don't bury the lead because the general may have to get up. And I don't know about you, but with podcast, I start a lot of them. I don't necessarily finish a lot of them, right?
Yeah.
Get a phone call, you get to your destination, just things happen. So I like to take up to 2 minutes up front, tell the audience kind of the most important things you're seeing in today's market, things you think they should be focused on, things you think they should be doing, avoiding, just kind of the cliff notes of what we'll talk about for the next half hour or so. Good to go?
Yeah.
Go.
So for me, it's all about just paying attention to what's working and what's not. So right now, with the way the market is, there's some uncertainty going on. So for me, I'm going to be paying attention to what's working for me to do the right type of deals. The right type of deals for me is not getting into the big, long, difficult projects. I want to be doing the easy in and out type of projects. And for me, I'm going to be doing only the best type of projects to flip or keep as rentals. We know interest rates are really high right now, so it's got to pencil. I'm only buying deals where it pencils day one and works long-term based on those numbers. And then all the other deals, we're going to be wholesaling. The deals that someone else is going to see as an investment opportunity for them, and for us, we'll be transactional in that type of deal, and we'll make our money then, we'll put money in the bank, and then focus on only doing those best deals. So for me, I'm getting really focused, I'm trimming all the fat in my business, and I'm focused on doing just good deals.
Doing good deals, would that be kind of like being friends with benefits?
Hey, for a lot of people, they're in the friend zone, but if they want to take it to the next level, friends with benefits is a great way for people to do good deals.
So I had never met you in person until I went out to the big event you guys threw last November.
Yeah.
And when I went out there, it was amazing. I see these people walking around with T-shirts that say, let's be friends with benefits or just friends with benefits.
Yeah.
And I was like, that is uniquely weird. Like it was, it got my attention.
Got your attention?
Definitely. And I had to go ask them, like, what is this? Are you running, it's California. You never know.
You don't know.
I just don't know if it was like an escort service or what, but that was it's your event. Mark, tell me about Friends with Benefits.
Yeah. So there's a story behind it. The story starts with, I had started a meetup in February of 2020. And it was with the vision of, look, I've been kind of heads down in my whole career this whole
time.
Great
freaking timing, Dean.
Great timing.
California.
That leads into the story. I've had my head down this whole time, kind of in my own world. It's time to go add value to others. It's time to switch on the abundance mindset and give value to others. And let's see what happens. Right. Go have fun with this. So the first meetup had 100 people, amazing turnout, was the energy I was looking for. March 2020, we got our next event scheduled. oh, it's going to be great, keep the energy going, and the whole world shuts down. I'm thinking to myself, what the heck am I going to do now to keep this awesome thing going, building a community? What am I going to do? So I got the social media, which I'd only used up to that point to post pictures of me going to the beach with my kids or sporting events, like nothing about my business. And I realized, well, let me start talking about the deals I'm doing.
Right.
And guys, I'm still doing deals. There's deals to be done. Like the world is still functioning. This is how we're doing it. And, oh, hey, by the way, we can help you too. Let us help you on your deals. Let us help you get these deals across the finish line. Let us help you make more money than you would doing it by yourself. And then it turned into, hey, send us your lead. We'll call the seller. We'll get the deal negotiated. We'll go on the appointment, get pictures. We'll get the deal under contract. We'll sell it to a buyer that will pay top dollar for the deal. We'll handle the whole escrow process, and we'll make more money. By the way, even though we're going to do all the heavy lifting, we'll give you 50% of the deal. And that took off like wildfire. And then people started sending me DMs. Hey, can you check this out? What can you do on here? And started sharing about those wins. And I started to think like, well, how can I make this a thing? Well, I would start to say, I love sending friends money. And I would take a picture of the wire that I sent to somebody or the PayPal I sent to somebody where their half of the profit was $20,000, $40,000, $50,000, making serious money on these deals.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, it's kind of like friends with benefits. So I said to my team, I'm like, what do you guys think about friends with benefits? I'm going to make t-shirts. I'm going to have coffee, like, Yeti mugs and stuff like that. And they're like, that's an attention grabber.
Yeah.
Marketing 101, get attention.
Oh, yeah.
So I made the t-shirts, started telling people, hey, you want to be friends with benefits? This is how you do it. And it took off. So,
Well, I feel like I'm stuck in the friend zone here.
hey, it's not a good place to be. Friends with benefits is way better.
Absolutely. So you are running a Central Valley operation from San Diego.
Right.
You played with the San Diego Chargers.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm guessing you kind of got your family rooted because you said you're from the Central Valley originally.
From Central California, yeah.
What was the decision like to stay in San Diego? And then how did you decide to, even though you were in San Diego, invest in the Central Valley?
So that all came from when I realized corporate was not going to get me back to that dream life. And I did that Google search. I was actually living in San Francisco working the corporate job. And I did not understand that market. It was hard for me to understand this tear down of a house being worth $1 million.
Yeah.
And then all I had to do with the city and the plans and permits and the cost to construct the house, like way out of my comfort zone. I was just getting started. And it's not what I was familiar with growing up. It's like, here's all your houses built in the 70s. Here's all your houses built in the 60s and the 50s. Like they all have a uniform look to them. And this house that sold for $300,000, I can wrap my head around that number. Well, this house is beat up and outdated, and I could get it for $150 and fix it up and sell it for $300. I can understand those numbers and I can be comfortable with them. So when I got started, it was actually virtual. I was in San Francisco and started my investing in Central California. So I was virtual from day one. And then I found my business partner, still to this day business partner, and he became the boots on the ground. I then didn't need to be there to run the project.
Right.
And to look at the houses or to go on the appointments. And so it further solidified that I could do a virtual. And when I realized how cold San Francisco was, I was like, okay, let's go back to San Diego where they got warm beaches. It's actually more affordable than San Francisco. And let's set down roots there.
So before you found your partner, when you say it was virtual, like you were buying houses over the phone and never saw them, and then wholesaling them over the phone, never met the buyer, So it's the new age investing,
A new age, yeah.
How did you? Was there a key mentor or course or anything that you took to kind of help you understand that?
Yeah. So thankfully, I feel blessed to have found Sean Terry was the Google search that came up. I don't know if you know Sean, but typed in how to get started in real estate. And up popped the Flip to Freedom podcast from Sean Terry. And it was the tagline, how to get started with little to no money. And for me, for those that don't know this part of my story, going from the NFL and having a 7-figure contract to going to corporate and now getting a $65,000 salary in the San Francisco Bay Area, you're basically at a negative income. And money started to dry up fast. And I just remember little to no money sounded amazing to me. And I could get started in real estate investing. So I just listened to the podcast. There was no visual, there was no YouTube, it was just audio. And I was lit on fire from the moment I heard that podcast and just took action on what he was saying to do. Even so much that he was talking about his market in Phoenix, Arizona, and the investing he was doing. This neighborhood's good, this neighborhood's not, this marketing's working. I did exactly what he did, even in Arizona. I was doing exactly what he's saying, just to a T. And I got a property under contract, and I was following the steps to find a buyer, but I couldn't find a buyer. So the smartest thing I did at that time, I got to give myself credit, I didn't know what I was doing. I was nervous, and I was like, what if I go pretend I'm the seller and go to Sean Terry's website and fill out the information about the house? So I did that, and his acquisition guy called me. I gave him the lowdown of what I got the property under contract. Could you guys help me sell it? And so Sean Terry calls me while he's driving his car and like, yeah, I could help you with that. And so we got the house sold in 48 hours. We made $12,000 that we split 50-50, and I made my first $6,000. I was like, holy crap, this is awesome. So I did my first couple deals with Sean Terry that exact same way.
In Phoenix. Based off of what he taught you on the podcast.
Based on what he taught me through the podcast. Not from his words through a phone call or training, just directly listening to the podcast. And then I took it a step further and did the exact same thing he was teaching back in Central California. Started doing direct mail postcards, started getting calls, and did my first handful of deals that way and built it up from there.
And so you gravitated back toward, now we'll talk about that No Fun League later. You gravitated towards Central Valley because that's where you were from.
Yeah.
It's where you understood. 10 plus years ago when we started with Blackstone and V2R Finance, it was hard to explain to the rating agencies, the people that were going to like help us securitize these loans, how common real estate investing was. And we were talking about like trying to tell them like, no, you can be comfortable with this because most people grew up in a house. Like they understand this and they tend to buy houses like they grew up in because you understand it. Like, I mean, you lived in it, right? If you come from a family like mine, you learned how to fix a toilet. You learned how to mow and weed eat and paint and scrape the fence. I mean, I feel like I grew up with the Karate Kid, right? Like it's just like paint the fence. So you picked the Central Valley. In the first year, 2 years, you were on your own doing all virtual, or how long did it take you to find your business partner?
So my first year, I did everything on my own, was learning the ropes, was closing deals, getting results, and, did pretty good. Great first year, especially the way that I did it. I did it the hard way. I did it the long and hard way, doing it by myself, telling myself I didn't have enough money to buy a coaching program, and coaching wasn't necessarily as popular back then either.
Right.
And so I did it the long and hard way, but I learned it. Took me longer to do it, but I got results. And what happened after that first year is I was in Central California doing my deals, and a buyer that I had called off of a for rent sign in front of a house while I was walking my dogs, the property manager answers, and I say, hey, would he have any interest in selling the house? That's a strategy you could use. Call a for rent sign, see if the owner wants to sell. Property manager says, I don't think he wants to sell, but let me put you in contact with him. Well, the owner calls me, says, hey, bud, I'm not looking to sell, but hey, if you got any deals, I'm a buyer. I'll buy any deal you got, and I'll help you, run the numbers, do all that kind of stuff. Okay, sounds good. Saved his number. Next deal I got, I ran it by him, and he bought it. Went smoothly. Next deal I got, sent it to him, and he bought it. Went smoothly. I was like, okay. And he went out of his way to tell me, hey, do you want to start flipping houses together? Thought to myself, I'm not in the position to flip houses. I'm just getting started. I don't have enough money. He's like, dude, don't worry about that. You're good at finding deals. Keep bringing the deals. We'll flip them together, and I'll bring all the other stuff. I'll do the construction. I'll bring the financing. I'll take care of it. I'm like, okay, sounds like exactly what I want to do, start flipping houses, make more money. And he said something that was funny to this day is, hey, it's kind of slowing down in Central California, but you were doing deals in Phoenix, Arizona. You want to go do deals there? You still have some contacts, right? Yeah, sure, I'll do a deal anywhere. It's a similar market. Let's go do it. So we rushed into it in the first month. This is the beginning of my second year. First month, we buy 6 houses. For me, that's a lot at that time. And we buy them in that first month, and I'm still driving. I want to buy more deals. He's like, let's slow down. Let's see how these go. Yeah. 4 of the deals, we do okay. Make 10 here, 15 here, 5 there, another 20 there. Turned out all right. Other 2, not so good. We did everything wrong. And he admits that he kind of like, hey, you're young and hungry. I'll kind of let you go with it. Everything I touch is gold. Like everything I've done so far has been working so good. Like these will go good too. So I'll let this young gun kind of like run the show. So bad contractors, wrong comps, did everything in the book wrong. And we lost over $100,000 on those deals. And that was a huge setback.
On all 6 combined, or those 2?
Those 2.
So cumulatively.
Well, no, all combined.
Okay.
Yeah. Net lost 100.
Yeah.
And
you were saying that's a huge setback.
For me at that time, a massive setback. I did not have that money to lose at the time. And so my brand new partnership had to shoulder my burden as well as his of that loss and carry the team through that. And we did the best thing that we could do at that time was not point fingers, not put our head in the sand. We said, well, how do we fix this? Let's go do more deals.
Right.
So we got right back to Central California. We cut out the Phoenix thing. And right at that time, I had one of my marketing pieces go out to a homeowner, and he called me. He said, well, Dean, I don't want to sell my house, but I got $1 million in the bank. What could you give me for it? And I had been listening to podcasts and learning about private money, and I knew at the time, well, 10% annualized interest is pretty darn good and a whole lot better than what he's getting in the bank. So I told him 10% annualized interest. He said, when can we meet? I said, okay, let me call my partner and I'll let you know when we can meet. So we went to one of my partner's houses that he flipped because I didn't have any. And before he hung up, he said, is it all right if I bring my friend? He's got more money than me. So that's no problem with me. Bring him. So these 2 gentlemen show up. My partner's walking him through the house. He's telling him what he did and how much things cost and the projects that he's doing. The guys looked at each other and said, all right, sounds good. Let us know when you need the money. And quickly after, within like the next week or 2, got a deal under contract in Central California there. And sure enough, they funded that first deal. And we went on to build up to be flipping 20 houses at a time and having, $3+ million out at one time from these 2 guys that we flipped hundreds of houses with, just these guys. And that got us out of that hole. And we did that for a number of years. And that's how that partnership started. It still is the same today.
Wow. All right, so we're going to take a quick break, come back. Then I want to talk about team sports.
Okay.
Stick around. We'll be right back. At RCN Capital, we know that time is money. With our competitive rates and quick turnaround time, you can receive funding in as little as 10 days. We offer flexible payment plans to relieve the pressure of repayment process. Our team is experienced in making sure that you choose a loan that will suit you best. Get on the phone with the loan officer today by emailing info@rcncapital.com or clicking the link in our bio. Welcome back to Uncontested Investing. I'm Tim Harrods. Thank you so much for sticking around. I am still here with Captain America. And Captain, military guy, played high school sports, big believer in teamwork, big believer in accountability. But you played at like literally the next level. I mean, you achieved what? Less than 1% of people that ever, less than 0.2% of people that ever pick up a football even sniff what you got to do. And I know your story.
Mm-hmm.
You walked away from it.
Yeah.
When you had the opportunity to continue. Well, you had already put 24, 25 years in. Would you talk a little bit about, we don't have to get into the details of that because that's just not that important. Would you talk about what you learned from Little League to high school to college to professional athletics that you think has helped you be successful, accountable, dependable, the traits that you think it gave you?
Yeah. Without question, I'd say the biggest thing that I took away, what not only got me to the success in, sports, but also in life now, is you don't always have to be the best. I was never the biggest, the fastest, the strongest, but I was willing to put in the work and do it consistently. There was a lot of athletes I saw along the way that were far superior athletes to me, but they just couldn't put it together. Couldn't put it together because there is that aspect of just being a player. Like you see some of the top receivers out there. They're not the biggest. They're not the strongest. They look like average Joes walking the street. And they're just a player. They just got it, right? So there's something about that for sure, but I've seen so many athletes just can't put it quite together because they're not willing to put in the work and be disciplined and consistent. So for me, the biggest thing that I developed through playing sports, and I think the way I was brought up too, is like, you got to do the work. Like, you got practice, you showed up to practice. If you're sick, you show up to practice. Like if you're not feeling well, you show up to practice. You put in the work every day and consistently. And that for me in business, like I'm not going to say I'm the smartest. I'm not going to say I'm the most skilled, the best at this strategy or technique, but I just keep doing it.
Yeah.
And I do it over time. So I think for sports, what got me to that opportunity to even get to that level was that I just kept doing it, and I had the longevity aspect of it.
Now, you were a fullback for the San Diego Chargers.
Yeah.
Now they're the LA Lightning, or I don't know.
Kidding, come on.
And you shared with me that as a fullback, right, you use your head a lot.
You sure do.
And you liked your head, and you wanted it to continue to work.
Yeah.
And it got to where you had to ice your head down after practice.
Yeah.
Were you already married at that time?
I was, yeah.
Did you already have any children?
No children, no.
Would you maybe talk a little bit about, because that seems like a pretty significant turning point in your life.
Yeah.
Like, because I know how hard the Little League athletes that I coach that are now in the NFL, I know how hard they've worked. I know like the tireless weekends and travel and so at that point, you probably started playing when you were 7 or 8?
I started playing sports at 8, yeah.
At 8. So you start playing sports at 8. You're 20, whenever you made the decision to leave football?
23, 24, something like that.
So we'll just say 24 because my math is kind of challenged sometimes.
Yeah.
So that's 16 years of, I would say it was definitely your primary focus of your life, right?
Yeah.
Would you just maybe talk about making the decision to leave pro sports, why you made it? You don't have to get into anything you don't want to get into.
Yeah.
And maybe why, when I say why, like, was it family? Was it kid? Like what helped you make that decision, which was clearly had to be a difficult decision?
Yeah.
So, by the way, that may have been the worst worded question I've ever had. So,
no, I got what you said.
We'll blame that on me. We'll edit half the question asking out.
I mean, you know part of my story. I mean, being on the other side in the NFL, instantly overnight, you're someone important. Right. You have status, you have fame. I mean, it is like out of a movie. It's pretty nuts. It's overwhelming too, especially because I came from a small little farm town Central California. I then went to a small football school to where some of the students, I'd be telling them like, I'm on the football team. They're like, we have a football team? I'm like, oh my God. Like, are you kidding me? Like, can we fill our stadium that has, 15,000 seats? Can we at least fill it? So coming from that small time kind of underdog experience leading up to that, it's like getting rocket fuel.
Right.
And you now have people screaming to get your attention, to get your autograph. Everywhere you go, people are looking at you. And I say this, and it's not a joke, but it is just funny to talk about. Literally, supermodel women following you around, like waiting outside of hotels, waiting outside of restaurants, appearing out of nowhere, like out of a bush. Poof, there's a supermodel showing up. Like, what's going on here?
Yeah.
Like, it was insane. So if you could imagine a 23-year-old now in this world, money, fame, women. I was married, so that kept me in check. But everything is accessible to you. Everything.
Describe every real estate conference I go to. Right, just kidding, honey. I'm kidding.
So that's now at your fingertips, and it's something that you've worked for your whole life, like you said. And these people that you've seen on TV forever, you've played on the video games as like superheroes pretty much, are now literally sitting right next to you like you and I are, having a conversation. I'm talking with Phillip Rivers. I'm talking with Antonio Gates, Hall of Fame players, some of the best players to ever live. I'm not just having casual conversations with.
Right.
It's kind of crazy. And so to be in that world and to also come out the gates playing really well and now having the head coach, Norv Turner, telling you you're going to have a long career, you can't help but feel like you're on top of the world. So I was living that experience while at the same time, that Norv Turner moved me from tight end to fullback. Played tight end in college, loved that position. You get one part being the athletic guy, catching the passes, scoring touchdowns. That's what I love most. To the other part where you're blocking the big monsters, defensive linemen, linebackers, and, wrestling each other out there. So you got to be strong and fast and athletic. So I loved tight end. At fullback, completely different, 9-day. You are a full-time crash test dummy. You are you're running a far distance from each other, just trying to kill each other. And a lot of times when you're running through the tackles, guards and tackles, the hole is literally this big. You can't fit up and hit with your shoulder because you're going to block up the whole hole. You got to lead like a battering ram right through the center, and that means you're leading with your head a lot.
Yeah.
And I was pretty damn good at it. I could run right through a mofo, but the repercussions was you were messing up your head.
Yeah.
And those collisions were so intense because you're going against the biggest, strongest, fastest people on planet Earth that are just as big, just as fast, if not more. And in order to be effective, you got to give it 100%. So that's what I did. And all the alarms were going off in my head. And it's not one of those things where you say, hey, coach, I banged up my head a little bit. Can I take a break?
Yeah.
Get the next guy in here. You're out, right?
Practice squad,
or you're out of here, right? They got 10 other guys just like you that can get in there. So you're not taking yourself off the field, but all the alarms are going off in your head. And had I stayed at tight end, there's no question I would have tried to stay as long as possible. But at fullback, I just knew I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it because I had to start icing my head. ESPN was talking about concussions. Junior Seau killed himself that year. I mean, there was a lot going on.
which had a big Chargers connection.
Huge Chargers connection.
Yeah.
He was that year showing up because he had just retired, showing up to practices, showing up to games, hoorah on the team and trying to get
us to the listener that may not understand. Junior Seau played for the Chargers.
played for the Chargers.
And it's like it happened so.
Yeah, he's an icon in San Diego and his restaurants and all that kind of stuff. So for that to happen, it was just, there was a lot of weight on that. And I just remember even having conversations with coach and the GM and trying to navigate this and figure out the longevity of doing that. And I just made the hard decision. And what was hard about it too is I didn't talk to anybody because you're kind of isolated. I don't know if you've heard any other people that have kind of risen to fame or anything. It gets pretty lonely at the top. We talk about this as real estate investors.
Yeah.
It's kind of lonely at the top. It's a lonely game. And that's why we join these masterminds and be a part of these groups, do podcasts. We want to be, have community. And so it was kind of a lonely place to be in with that weight on me. And I made the decision by myself without talking to family, without talking to friends, anybody. And it was done. And I didn't look back because I knew that if I was tempted with, here's another team, here's another opportunity, which I was still talking to other teams, that I would, kind of find myself wanting to go back there because how could you not?
Yeah.
But I knew I made the best decision for my life to walk away.
Well, especially with the Norv Turner offense. Being a Dallas fan from the 90s, Daryl Moose Johnston, he was the battering ram for Emmitt Smith. And, of all the players on the team, he was the first one out. It was his neck. Yeah. And then the tight end was after. And then, it's like everyone on that team had a broken neck or a broken back by the time it was over, said and done. I do want to transition, though, because I appreciate you sharing that. You had a wife at the time.
Yep.
You said you had a 7-figure contract, which, if you're bad at math, it means he's making $1 million a year. You said you talked to nobody. Did you talk to her before you made the decision?
I didn't even talk to her.
So what's that conversation like? This is where we help the audience. You walk in, you say, honey, where'd y'all meet? College or what?
High school.
High school. Honey, what you watched me put my life on the line for the last 8-10 years, I quit today.
Yeah.
And by the way, I don't know where we're going to get money.
Yeah.
What was your degree in?
Economics.
I bet you were the only fullback with an economics degree.
I was definitely the smartest fullback, for sure.
All right, so what is that conversation like? You walk in and you tell your wife, honey, I quit our $1 million job. I'm going to go be an economics professor. What was it like?
It was just I'll figure it out conversation, Like I said, there really wasn't a lot of thought to it. It was just like a survival instinct.
Yeah.
To where this is what I got to do, and I got to do it now. There was no second thoughts. There was no, consultations type of thing. There was no let's go talk to other teams. It was just I'm moving forward and I'm not looking back. And so there really wasn't a lot of conversation. It was just like, all right, I'm moving on to the next thing. I'll figure it out. And I did quickly too. I got a call from one of my college buddies who I was talking to. We were, in conversation. He's like, look, I know you're done with football. I got another thing that I think's good for you. And so he basically walked me right in the door to that corporate job, past all the red tape, past all the interviews and all that kind of stuff, and got me the job. And for me, that was like piece of all right, I'm moving forward. I'm doing something.
How important has the burn the boat mentality been for you?
Surprisingly, not important. I actually believe in not burning the boats, which is interesting because as part of my story, the corporate job was instrumental in everything because I did become so tight on money. That corporate job needed to keep me afloat while I was investing, while I started that new career, that new journey. And as part of my story, it took longer than I had thought because I did it the long and hard way. I didn't get a mentor or coach. I didn't accelerate my growth. And I had this mindset of I'll do it myself. I always have, and I'll keep putting in the work and I'll grind it out. And flash forward to where I'm at now, I've realized if you want to go further and faster, you got to do it with the help of others.
Yeah.
And there is a tremendous community of people that are willing to help you go further and faster. And so I could have avoided a lot of mistakes, but I took the long path, and that's part of why I don't believe in burning the boats, is because I know everybody's got a different path and journey. And if it's the right moment, if it's the right opportunity to burn the boats and you're secure to do that, then I think you should. But if you're not, I don't think you should bet at all, right?
So what is your message to someone out there that maybe has a W-2 a good W-2.
Yeah.
Benefits, security, their family's taken care of. Kids are in an established school district, but they've got that itch. They're at home Googling the same thing that you are, right? They hear these podcasts, these people that made millions of dollars in appreciation, and they want that too.
Mm-hmm.
So in one scenario, you left the best job you ever had financially without any looking back and just shut it off, said, no, it's not an option. And then the next time, maybe you're a little older, wiser, you don't feel like you're in personal danger. You keep that going as long as possible. So a lot of real estate investors are part-timers. What is your advice to people that are maybe considering quitting their day job and getting in full-time into real estate?
I think you just got to ask yourself the question, like, how bad do you really want it? Because being an entrepreneur, as you know, is not the lazy river, laid back, easy job.
Right.
You actually got to put in more work usually. And the running joke is like, you're going to work double the amount of time and make half the money as an entrepreneur, at least at the beginning. Like, you're willing to work more and make less doing it on your own than, the alternative, because you got that freedom. It's your choice. It's your thing. So if you're on board with that, at least at the beginning, then maybe it is something worth doing. Because I think where the W-2 person gets, mystified into the belief that, oh, I'm going to go do this investing stuff, that it's a plug and play easy button, right? And believe me, there are proven track records of successful paths of how to do it and do it the right way. And there's a lot of great people that are willing to show you and teach you how to do that. But you still got to do the work.
Right.
Even if you've got that, right? With sports, what I loved about sports is the structure. I showed up, I put in the work. They told me the play to run. They told me exactly how to do it, what step to take, how far to take it, and I just put in the work. That's why I accelerated and did really well.
Yeah, the what, when, and how is pretty laid out, right?
Yes.
it's
exactly
there.
The blueprint is there. And I think the tough thing for entrepreneurs getting started without that structure is they're used to the W-2 structure or some other prior structure, and now you're on your own to figure it out. You wake up when you want, you put in the work when you want, or you don't, right? And that's where it can start to fall apart. So if you can, for the person who wants to quit the W-2 job, I think it's worth it, 100%. Because to live life on your terms and to be able to call your own shots, even though there may be more pressure and responsibility on your actions, the reward is so much greater,
So I want to take a quick break, come back. I'm going to do the Money Minute, and then I want to talk to you about coaching. So stick around. We'll be right back.
REI Inc. is a monthly business publication for real estate investors, covering all types of real estate investments and strategies. It is the most comprehensive real estate investment publication on the market. All of the articles are written by the top leaders in the industry, so investors are assured of always getting the best information possible. Each month, REI Inc. also profiles the top companies in the industry and provides insights and data into key regional markets. Along with their sister platforms, the REI Referral Network and Highest Invest, real estate investors have exclusive access to off-market investment opportunities and national acquisition and disposition initiatives. To learn more, visit www.rei-inc.com, where you can also access the REI Referral Network. Also, be sure and visit www.highest-and-vest.com to view the latest exclusive off-market assets with near immediate acceptance decisions and closing strategies. You can also email marketing@rei-referralnetwork.com to request more information.
Welcome back to Uncontested Investing. I'm Tim Harrods. Thank you for sticking around. I'm still here with Dean Rogers. Dean, we got to do the Money Minute first. So the Money Minute, I phrase it like this. Imagine there's an investor, entrepreneur, young Dean Lantos, hell, maybe an NFL football player. And this is the only advice they're going to get for the next 30 days. This 60 seconds is like the only thing that's going to play on loop in their head. So it's got to be the best stuff you got. Are you ready?
Wow. Okay.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's what we're here.
Pressure.
Yeah, it's the Money Minute. Like, This screen is supposed to say the Money Minute right now, but Emilio, my friend, I'm just giving Emilio, the producer, a little bit of heartache. Someone else used the studio before us. The Money Minute, 60 seconds, go.
So you're on your deathbed and you figure out, did you live the life you wanted or not? I think this is the question you got to ask yourself on where you're at right now and where you want to go. Because if you want to just clock in and clock out at a job and, enjoy the weekends, then sure, keep doing what you're doing. But if you really want to change your life and take it to the levels that you've only dreamed of, I'm a firm believer that you got to bet on yourself and your personal development, and focusing on what's going to get you to that next level is where all your attention should be. And I'm biased. I think real estate is the best vehicle, hands down, without question. There is not another industry that has the ability to take somebody from nothing with limited to no resources and become whatever they want. So for me, if you're wanting to take things to the next level, you got to get invested in real estate and get around the right people to do it.
Along the theme of what you're talking about, my oldest son, all-state linebacker, all-state academics, defensive MVP, loved football. D1 offers, D2 offers, D3 offers. Picked a D3 school down in San Antonio, Trinity University, because the coach did an amazing job. Like, the coach is like, look, I played here, and you see my jersey from the Patriots and my jersey from, I forget the other one, and there's my Super Bowl ring. So I played here, played in the league, now I'm a coach here. So if you want to go somewhere else that maybe you get there, you can, but you want to come here, be a 4-year starter, 2 or 3-time All-American, have the time of your life and still have a chance to get in the league, let me know. My son's like,
That's pretty good.
done, Hurts his ankle the second day of practice. Fights to get back, earns a spot on defense and special teams, hamstring. Ends the season. I was lucky. I get a little side here. Been coaching him forever. His game was in Kentucky somewhere, and I drove to see the game. And I missed his other games because he was always playing on Saturdays. And I was coaching my little one's Little League football team, which was hard. It's a very hard choice, right?
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes we'd finish the Little League game and then drive to San Antonio as fast as we could just to get there for the second half, that kind of stuff. But, I watched him, man. 2 plays in that last game. The first one, he's the middle linebacker, and it's a punt return, and he just, throws this one dude on the ground, knocks this other dude over. You're like, yeah. Then his kickoff team, and you see him, he takes 10 steps, comes up, holding the back leg. You're like, there we go. Anyway, he barely worked himself back. They were the conference, the division champs or conference champs. Gets back in the playoffs, hurts his ankle like the second snap. His body's going through hell.
Yeah.
Thanksgiving break, we're sitting around the house. I'll never forget, I walk into his room. He's on the ground stretching because it's combat sports, right?
It is.
And, in his back and IT bands and just, he's always rolling or stretching something. And unfortunately now it's been 4 years later and it's still, he can't sit in the room without stretching. And I walk in, he's sitting on the ground and he goes, I think I'm done. I go, with what? And he goes, football. I go, okay. And he kind of looked at me in dismay, like, Dad's not arguing with him. I'm not, going to talk him into it or what. I was like, what's next?
Yeah.
And he's like, what do you mean, what's next? I just told you I quit football. Like, nah, cool. In our family, we don't stand still. Like, what's next? He's like, I don't know. I was like, well, then let's talk about what you want to do when you grow up. And so I have this tool I call the goal wheel. And you kind of look at where you want to be 5 or 10 years from now, and everything breaks out into subsets. And I asked him, I said, what life do you want to live? I'm going back to what you were talking about. And he goes, I really want your flexibility and your lifestyle. He goes, but I don't want to have to work on the nights and weekends and be as stressed as you are. Well, how many days a week do you work in this dream world of yours? He goes, 2 or 3 a week. I'm like, cool, firefighter, pilot. That's it.
Right.
And you'll make good money. You'll have flexibility. You can do some side hustles, like whatever, like firefighter, pilot. He goes, oh, I don't want to be a firefighter. I was like, oh, well, then pilot. He goes, well, I've never flown. I said, well, get you up in the air. So paid for him to take a little private lesson. He's like, that was cool. I was like, pilot it is. He goes, what if I change my mind? I was like, work on something different, right? Like, the fun part of it was he knew what he wanted, right? He wanted that, you were just talking about it, like kind of be in control of his life. He wanted that free time, but he also knows he doesn't like seeing the stress that comes with entrepreneurism, right? Like,
Yeah.
he doesn't like the dad having to get up from the table and go take a call, because that's just the life we live. Like, sometimes you got to take a call.
Right.
I wanted to share that story because coaching is now something you do for investors.
Mm-hmm.
I actually tried to talk my son into going into coaching after football, because he's a wonderful football mind, really smart kid. Like, and he was like, oh no. I was like, why? He said, I can't be around it. He goes, if I'm not playing, I just can't be around it. Right. Did you ever consider coaching football?
I thought about it. That was one thing that I thought naturally that I just would want to be around the sport. But then I saw the fact that those coaches are working so many hours. They're away traveling half the year. And that just didn't align with the vision I had of wanting to be able to spend time with my family, have the freedom, be coaching them in the sports and doing all those things. So for me, that was just enough to shake me to, I got to do something different.
In the hall before we did this episode, you were actually talking to Stratton, your partner in the events business, and y'all were talking about travel. And you were like, I don't know about that one because I'm already doing this one and this one and this one, and that may be too much. Clearly, you have the money, the time, the flexibility to go on that event.
Yeah.
But you were considering your wife and your children and your family commitments. Now, looking back, how much do you think that vision or desire for your future had to do with the decisions you made in your 20s?
So what's funny about me becoming an entrepreneur was I told myself growing up, I was not going to be an entrepreneur because my parents were. Parents were entrepreneurs, and believe me, I saw the good and the bad. The good was, hey, look at this great house we're in. Hey, we're going to Europe this summer. Hey, we're going to Hawaii. I mean, those are incredible memories that were, great for my childhood. We had everything that we needed. My parents were very conservative. They never overdid things, but we always had what we needed. But I also was at the table hearing conversations about, I'm not sure if we're going to make payroll next week. Where are we going to find the money for this? Hearing that as a kid put fear in me. And I was scared of money. And I thought to myself, I am not going to be an entrepreneur.
That's why you became an economics major.
Right? And I thought to myself, I'm going to go work for, and my dad would always tell me, go work for a big company, work your butt off, make a lot of money, and you'll be set. And I got into that environment, and I just knew I was not going to be fulfilled. And it wasn't going to allow me to reach my potential that I knew I had. So that decision in my early 20s, mid-20s, to become an entrepreneur went against what I told myself, but it was out of that survival instinct again of look, I'm going backwards,
right?
Making this kind of money, living in this kind of area. I got to do something different. And to keep it real for people, I mean, when I say money was tight and drying up, it really was, to the point where I was living paycheck to paycheck, and I had a couple credit cards that were nearly maxed out, and there was distinctly one month that was the it's enough month where I didn't have enough money for groceries. And my wife had just gotten a Target credit card with a $500 limit, and we used that to go buy groceries because Target just started having groceries in the store. And I remember that feeling of being on top of the world as an NFL superstar to now a loser. And I was like, that's not me. I'm not a loser. I'm not going to be this person that I am right now. I've got to go figure something out. So that's when that Google search happened. especially after that first 14 months. They didn't even give me a pay raise after the first year. 14 months, and they said, "Look, we got you a pay raise from $65,000. We were able to bump it up by $2,000. You're now at 67." I said, "Hell no, this is not going
to."
Hey, good old percentage, couple percents, but for me, that was enough to say, I got to go figure this out. So the combination of those things said, time to be an entrepreneur.
And we're almost out of time. I like to ask this question. Earlier, you mentioned there was another big loss that may be good for the audience to know. I'd love to hear that. And then just if there's any parting thoughts that you have before we wrap up.
Yeah. So for me, my story, my hero's journey is all about perseverance. And believe me, I didn't want it to go this way. I wanted everything to go smoothly and make a ton of money early and be retired already, right? But the way my story went is I had that early loss, really set me back, but it really taught me and reinforced grit, right? And being willing to work through whatever it is, no matter how bad it is. And that was an early lesson for me that came back up again after getting traction, making money, and feeling like I was building something that was, to be proud of. And right when I was at that point, I was being tempted to get into the San Diego market. I'm living back here. The houses are nice, HGTV style type houses. I could do some cool deals here. There's some people making great money. All right, I'm building a community of people here, networking really well. I'm going to do a deal here. I'm going to do deals here. And at that time, there was that community of people I was networking and building with others. And there was someone within that group that was doing deals and other people were doing deals with. And he was a little rough around the edges. Something was a little off, but I ignored it because I wanted to do a deal.
Right.
And I ignored the gut feelings and presented me with a deal. I jumped into that deal. And to spare all the details, he turned out to be a wolf in sheep's clothing. And he was a scam artist. And all those other people in my network and all the other people he'd done deals with, the house of cards just fell. And I was left in a position of cleaning up a giant, massive mess of this deal that I was now involved in. And I made the decision to do the deal. I had to take ownership.
Yeah.
And it was a lot of ownership to take on. And I ended up losing $187,000. And there was no partners in the deal. It was just me, myself, and I. And I had to go through cleaning up that mess for the next year, knowing that it was a massive loss coming.
Right.
And I know that was so painful and difficult to go through because I knew that I had been scammed. Not only did you make the wrong decision, but you got legitimately scammed by a person. That was another low point. And it was right when my first son was being born. And I remember doing the deal because I wanted to do a good deal before he was brought into this world and feeling like I had this, great new money that I'd made from it and all these things. But it turned out to be the opposite. So for me, I like to bring that story up because there might be somebody listening that's been trying to have breakthrough, that's been pushing through it. And maybe they've had a loss or maybe they haven't had a loss. Maybe they, made a bad decision and did a bad deal, or maybe they got scammed by somebody too, and they're feeling really down about it and feeling maybe even depressed about it. I'm telling you right now, if you just persevere and push through, no matter how hard it is, it's worth it to get to the other side. And so I like to give that inspiration to anybody that needs to hear it, that you can get through pretty much anything. Your body is pretty resilient. It's your mind that you got to take under control and get that strong. And if you can do that, you can get out of anything. So for me, I rose from the ashes again, pretty much. And now we've, gone on to do millions and millions of dollars worth of deals, built that rental portfolio that we have. And it's been a blessing.
So to recap, farm boy turned millionaire NFL football player, turned $500 credit card Target grocery shopper,
Yeah.
turned successful wholesaler, turned failed flipper, turned successful flipper,
Yep.
turned failed big deal guy in San Diego, yeah, different. And now you've got that core focus of it's Central Valley real estate, the way you know, with the partner you know, and stick with what you're really good at.
Yeah.
Sounds like.
Yeah. Stick at what you're good at. Don't try to be great at all these different things. Work with the right people that you know, like, and trust. And that partnership has turned out to be the biggest blessing in my life. We gave a shot on each other, and we dated before we got married. We did deals for the first year and a half, which were not the best years, right? The first year and a half was a struggle, but we've had our partnership now the whole rest of the time, and we've never pointed fingers, we've never blamed one another, but we just continue to push each other and get better. So,
well, man, I'm very thankful you're here, and if you're watching online, you'll see that it says Dean Rogers at Dean Rogers Real Estate for Instagram, and DeanRogers.com for your website. You're part of the Deal Champs podcast. Is the podcast?
Yep.
And then that's going to become the Deal Champs event, most likely April-ish. Like Easter, on Easter.
Right on Easter. We got to do it on a major holiday.
Easter Sunday, be there or be divorced, I guess. I don't know. Or be divorced or be there. I'm saying it wrong, and I'm going to move on. Well, I appreciate you being here. Thank you guys for flying in.
Absolutely.
I enjoyed taking you to dinner last night and showing you a practice stadium bigger than your college stadium.
Yeah, truly.
All right, that is it for this week. We are out of time. Remember, your network is your net worth, and today you've been growing both. We'll see you next week.
Thank you for listening to Uncontested Investing. Questions about today's episode or the podcast? Email podcast@rcncapital.com and make sure to follow REI Inc. magazine on LinkedIn and Facebook and RCN Capital on Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook. See you all next time.